What's up, everybody? Agne here, and today we're going to get into a question that I seem to be getting a lot. And so we're going to look into how to build a PvE march effectively. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, so like I said in the intro, we're going to be going into what I'm looking at when building a PvE march. Because I've been getting a lot of questions about it. So this can at least show you some of the thought process that I have when I'm looking at it and for PvE. And frankly PvP as well, if you have the same thought process as I have. I've made other videos in the past about how to build a PvP lineup and what to look at in Special Ants, but we'll go a bit further and focus on PvE today. But before we get into that, the usual shenanigans. This video is sponsored by AppCoins. We're using my code AGNE6 for Android only, soon to be for Apple. You can get anywhere from 5 to 65% off all in-game purchases. You start with a 5%, and then my code on top of it gives you an immediate 10% on any purchase in the game. It's a great way to save a little bit of money and keep on playing this game, which does demand some money. So again, that's using my code AGNE6 in Aptoid. Full description of how to do so will be down in the description down below. As well, in the description down below is a link to my YouTube Discord, where we frequently have voice calls. It's a great community to where you can just go and talk and laugh and ask questions, and just a great community to be around. So that'll be down in the description below. We're always there to help people out. We got a great crew of people to be able to help people out, answer questions, have fun, get what you need without all of the other shenanigans. Speaking of helping out, there is still 65% of you that are not subscribed that watch my videos weekly. I hate to be that kind of YouTuber, but it really does help me out. If you can just hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave a comment. It all helps with algorithm. It helps with further sponsors so I can do more giveaways, etc., etc. So just do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, share it with somebody, leave a comment, etc., so I can actually give back more to the community like you guys. All right, so we'll get into it. So the question I get a lot is like, okay, well, you know, what's best for PvE, what's best for PvP, blah, blah, blah. So there's a couple different factors that you got to look at. So the first one, you're obviously looking at doing the top amount of damage that you possibly can, but how do you achieve that? So the best way that I have found personally is to use 2 different DPS ants when you go to hit, but there's 3 slots. So if you can look at the difference in like what I run, for instance, for carry day, I have the Golden Crystal and the LB as my DPS ants. Then, let's see, for, I don't know which one I looked at. For the Guardians, I have technically 3 DPS, but there's a reason why I use Parada, which we'll get into here in a minute. But Leaf Devourer and Hairy Panther are a major DPS. And then I run EJ and Laffy Sniffer, which I'll get into why I do that. But you'll notice that there is a common denominator between almost all of these, to where you see that I run the Crimson Pearl. And you can say, okay, well, Crimson Pearl is not really a DPS ant. And no, it's not. So we'll get into that. So if you go and look, so okay, so we'll start with like Guardians, for instance, because that's the one factor that I had different. So why do I run the Parada? Well, there's a couple different reasons behind that. And let me find my Parada, and we'll go into it. There it is. Okay. So the first one being that does do damage. So it has a 55% damage chance to do 225 plus the 50% from your skill level. So 280% damage. So it has a pretty high damage outcome on a chance. Then it has another damage one. And yeah, so again, it's another damage. And then you have the Guardian at health, and then it has even more of damage. So the reason, even though for Guardian I'm using a triple DPS, there's a reason behind that, because when you're trying to do the maximum amount of damage, typically you want to have at least one support in. So for me, I use the Crimson Pearl, but for Guardians, it's a little different because they don't really have much of the support as far as activating more damage from your other Guardian units. So I don't use the Crimson Pearl for that, because if you go and look at the Crimson Pearl, what it has is basically has a healing effect for its fourth skill, which is, or its eighth skill, sorry, which is not really a big help in a PvE. So then you can start looking at other things like the Dusky Lurker, which has increasing attack of all different squads, and other factors along those lines. I've even seen some people run the Bicollar. I haven't really done much testing with that, to be honest, but on paper, I don't see it actually being effective. So we'll see about that. But anyway, so Guardian's one that is a little different when it comes to PvE, to where I would suggest running a full DPS. Like I said, I run the Parada for that. I've done some testing with the ADA, and it's pretty comparable to running Parada. So there are some options that you can have as far as that. Now, when we get into like the shooter and the carrier, I run the Crimson Pearl. So the biggest reason for the Crimson Pearl is the skill 8. So in a squad, different soldiers bring different effects. Shooter ants, skill crit rate increased 60%. That's huge, because if you're looking at a skill activation of, say, 12 to 20 from your Lathi Sniffer or your Silver Saharan, whatever, it has, each of those hits has a 60% chance to be a crit hit. So that is huge, especially for shooters, to be able to have that additional crit hit. When you're looking at like the Duskies the same way, to where it just increase the attack and does some additional damage. And then you have where it increases the next skill damage of our back line by 25%. Things like that. Extra attack in the skill 7. Those are the things you're looking for. So you're wanting to have one support that's basically backing up the back two lines on each of the days and in your PvE march. So I run personally the Crimson Pearl. It's the most versatile and I think the best. I see people that run like a full DPS. I think you're kind of taken away from that, because you're not maximizing your critical hit strikes and etc. when you are trying to do that big hit. Plus, it has chances to also do a good amount of damage itself. It have like the parasitic effect, has extra attacks, stuff like that. So all in all, it overall just boosts your entire squad, which should be the whole point in a PvE. You want something that's going to be able to give a little bit of damage itself, but you also want something that is going to be able to support your back lines. So the other question I might get is, okay, why am I using Lathi instead of Silver Saharan? So if you look, my Silver Saharan is base level, and my Lathi is Gold Awakening, and max. So a maxed Lathi by itself without Awakening is about equivalent to a Silver Saharan with no stars. I unfortunately have not been able to get more copies of Silver Saharan, so with the Awakening of Lathi, it's actually hitting way harder than what a Silver Saharan will. And on top of that, the EJ is hitting immensely with that, which it usually activates about 22 times in a PvE round, which gives some pretty decent scores. As we can see when we're going and looking at a groundhog, if I can find one, it really does make a big difference, and gives a pretty impactful hit. So alright, I hope that this video helped y'all, and I know it's kind of a different video, but if you want any kind of video that you want me to do for you, the best way is to go into our Discord and leave it in the video ideas part of the Discord, or you can leave in the comments. With how much I work, I must admit I'm pretty bad at responding to comments. It usually takes me until the next weekend to really take a look at them, but you can always leave it there as well. Alright, with that, egging this out. Hope this helped y'all out. We'll see you in the next one.